Okay. Good morning. I'd like to call the ad hoc project committee meeting to order. The time is 10:05 a.m. It's Saturday, June the 8th. First of all, I determined we have a quorum, and we do indeed. We have 4 members. We have a quorum present. Second item is, correction, as part of that, I want to verbalize that both Bernard Yettermeyer and Jack Joyce are absent, but excused absence from the meeting. So thank you for being here, and Steve, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Second item of business, I want to go ahead and review and approve the minutes of the May 18, 2019 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Move. Okay, a second to approve?
Second.
Okay, thank you, George. Thank you, Bonnie, for the second. Any discussion on the minutes of the May 18, 2019 meeting? All right, I have no items on that I see of concern. All in favor of approving as written? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Third item of business is orientations for the new mayor and council member contingent upon their ability to attend. I want to let you know I did reach out to JR. He has a conflict this morning. He has another event that he is at, so he doesn't believe that he will be able to make it. If he does, he'll be coming in late, and so I'd like to reserve that in case he makes it later on during the meeting if he actually doesn't make it in. So move on from that. Skip, any thoughts on that? Okay, thank you. Item 10, number 4, discussion of possible action on new project proposals presented by committee members. Last month, I asked for some input on committee members on ideas. I presented a few. Mr. Booth presented some ideas. Bonnie, I think that you presented some ideas also. We were missing, 2 of our members at this point too. That some ideas also. My question at this point is there anything at this point we want to get into on these preliminary ideas, knowing that, and I'm going to bring this up, knowing that we may have a different committee at the next meeting, and I don't want to spin our wheels on stuff that may not carry forward, so it's that's just my thoughts here. Skip, comments?
No, I've got an item down here. I think item 6 is the one on zoning that I brought up last time. So, and we may do the same with that.
Okay, thank you.
But I do want to touch base on it before we go by it.
Okay. George, your thoughts on moving forward or getting in detail on any items that were presented?
No, not this one.
Okay.
Anybody have anything they want to particularly address?
That's fine.
Can I just would like, and maybe it's going to be covered by Ryan, but recognizing that I haven't been on the committee all that long, but I remember there being some discussion about something with the congestion at West Avenue and Jackson Keller there by HEB. And there was going to be some, I don't remember specifically what action was going to be taken, if it was going to be brought to the MPO or if we were going to discuss it with the city of San Antonio. I was just wondering kind of the status of where that stands.
I'll give you my 5-minute soapbox on that.
Let's take it in because we did do a lot of work into that. And
We
so-
did. We looked at 2 right turn lanes, one from Jackson Keller northwestbound to west northbound, and one from west northbound to 410 Access Road eastbound. That's on both sides of the HEB. So there'd be right turn lanes there. And we looked at the cost of that, and the idea was, first of all, that the MPO requirements were that the project had to be at least $1 million. Neither of those turn lanes by itself would be $1 million. So that they would individually be too small a project for the MPO to consider under the rules that they were operating under. So we looked at the possibility of partnering with San Antonio, since San Antonio owns part of the right-of-way for the turn lane that we proposed from Jackson Keller northwestbound to west northbound. And San Antonio was not really interested in partnering with us on both of them, because what we would have had to do is put both of them into one project. get San Antonio to take part of that one turn lane and for us to partner on it. The problems were that the requirements that the MPO imposes are fairly stringent, require some expertise, some additional training and so forth and so on. And San Antonio has people who are qualified to do that, we don't. We would have to contract that out. San Antonio was unwilling to partner with us on a program comprising both turn lanes. And the time limits that they had set for the project had already passed for their capital improvements program, transportation capital improvements program. So, and besides that, we didn't have other things that would have been required, like a memorandum of understanding, an interlocal agreement, something of that sort, where we had outlined the terms under which we would work together to get something done. So we couldn't fit into the parameters that the MPO had given us. So we never did really seriously consider pressing on with that project because of those reasons. However, we did meet with, I did discuss it with people in TCI at San Antonio. We did talk about the possibility of interlocal agreement, memorandum of understanding, and Mr. Rapley working on that. So while we weren't able to make that deadline for that first project, there will every year or so be additional projects that we might be able to participate in. In addition, we're hoping to participate in San Antonio's 2022 bond program, which will get us into some other opportunities. But the plain fact was that we weren't able to make the requirements for the first deadline, and so we did not submit anything. We had that stuff outlined and the cost of the projects together, both turn lanes, would be a little over $1.25 million to do. How we go about getting that done next time is a whole nother question. It may be that there may not be such a large minimum value on project participation next time, or it may be that we find some other way to partner with San Antonio. And that's what we're looking to do.
And from San Antonio's end, having some institutional knowledge after being there for a long period of time, they have committees, and they have a transportation committee. And so when they had a call for projects for the CMAC, there was, 10 council districts. So each council member had different projects that they submitted to this transportation committee. Then they prioritized it, and then the prioritized projects were submitted during this recent call of projects for the CMAC. So, and again, getting with San Antonio, we were kind of behind the curve because those projects were already submitted to the transportation committee and prioritized for the call of projects. So the next call of projects, and what we'll talk about later, or just give you an update, but we want to get ahead of the curve. We want to have this framework developed so when we can both submit projects at the same time for the next call of projects. But internally, there's a process that San Antonio goes through. There's a council committee structure there where they have a transportation, quality of life, that different policy projects go through, kind of workshopped before it even gets to eventually a larger B session or city council meeting eventually, finally. But that's how they workshop those items through the council committee, and those all the different council districts projects went through and were prioritized and vetted out through that transportation committee for submitting on the San Antonio side for the latest CMAC on the MPO. Just give you background on San Antonio works.
Bonnie, did that answer your
Yes,
question?
yes.
George, you have a question?
Well, we should probably keep an eye on that, maybe next year, that the rules will change, and we could resubmit the idea.
Right, absolutely, and I think that was the intent here, why the MOU, the interlocal together. The one thing that Skip mentioned, I'm sure maybe brought it too, is this also involved TxDOT, because of the majority of the right of way, the majority is that this turn lane from West Avenue to the access road, the majority of that would be TxDOT property too. And so there was a juggling act going on to try to get these three entities to work together, and actually four entities, because you moved your county in that too.
Well,
So there's all that.
TxDOT was on board.
TxDOT
was on board. They would just have to kind of sign off on it and clear it.
Nobody spoke against it, everybody thought it was a good idea, it's just they weren't prepared, is what it boils down to.
We talked when we went to tech stop training, they suggested that they were able to take over management of some things. You mentioned Porfirio down there where there's a small county, 5,000 people, I think, total population. TxDOT took over the project and managed it for them. However, in discussing it with the people who were supposed to be in charge, nobody was willing to step up and say, yeah, we'll do it. Everybody had reasons why they couldn't do it because. And so I think there was some reluctance on the part of the TxDOT working level people to be willing to take over our management for us because we don't have that capacity.
No.
We have to contract it out. I think there are other ways to deal with it. There were other things that we looked at. This whole project was $60 million statewide, and it was part of the proceeds of the penalties imposed on Volkswagen for their air quality studies that were falsified. And that's why this project was congestion management air quality. And that's one of the reasons it has separate limits on it. But they have limits like that of some kind on almost every project they do. We looked at other stuff. We thought originally it might be that the number of bus stops over there, which is around 20, right around that little triangle, that their stops might contribute to it. But I did some traffic studies, went over and spent time sitting there watching and counting and whatnot. Now, the buses were not really the problem. The turn lanes were an issue, and that's how come we got to the turn lanes. But I spent several days out counting buses, counting cars, counting lines of cars during big traffic times and that kind of stuff. And I couldn't find anything that the buses were doing that seriously contributed to the congestion problem.
Yeah, live over there. I don't go anywhere near there, like between 4:30 and 6. And part of that is the left turn lane, you know, it's only a 2-lane if you're going Jackson Keller towards
Sure.
410. And if a bus stops there, because there are a lot of people that go to HEB on and off the bus, and there's people trying to turn left, then everything, and there's every now and then you get the left turn. I mean, it's not every cycle that you get a left turn arrow. It just backs up to Gladiola.
You'll see half a mile or a mile of cars lined up there.
It needs to be
But
synchronized all the way
buses are not
through.
really the issue. What's the issue is the fact that it's a 2-lane road. There's no separate right turn lane, there's no separate left turn lane.
Right.
Cars have to stop in the traffic lane and wait for an opportunity to turn left across a heavy line of traffic coming southbound on Jackson Keller. And that's where the real big problem is, and I didn't see a good solution to it. There's no real place to widen the street or create a new left turn lane there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to agenda number 5. Interesting. Discussion and possible action on new committee members, membership terms, rules, procedures, and continuing the committee membership.
Okay.
Skip this, about this item forward.
Somebody asked last time if what we got approved of what we'd asked for, and I think it was. I passed out copies of the material that was in the resolution. There were a couple of small changes made when I put it up. I had originally said item 7 that I had originally included on a parenthetical that said with notice to council. But thinking about that, it really didn't seem like there was any purpose to notifying council we were going to have somebody helping us on the committee. But anyway,
That was removed.
I'm sorry.
That was removed from the approved agenda.
Yeah, I amended it in the council. But the rest of this is pretty much exactly what we asked for.
Are those copies for the committee?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll give it
I
to
can get her, I passed out one, everybody should have a copy of this stuff, okay? At least I intended to, sorry about that.
That's what happens when you come late.
I'm sorry?
So that's what happens when you come late.
That's what happens when you're over there eating groceries, running a meeting.
You'll see it's sharp.
Okay, anyway, I think that if you read it over, I think it should make sense. If you got questions, I'll be happy to try to address them. One of the things that I do want to mention, that I'd like to consider at some point, is that we will have people who occasionally are going to be designated or appointed as, I don't know what you call them, citizen volunteers to the committee. And sometimes some of these people, like people who are here now, we have 3 people who are up for reappointment, and the council hasn't yet acted on that. But what we do have is a provision that allows members whose terms have expired to hold over until our replacements are appointed. So everybody here is a legitimate member of the committee, regardless of the fact that technically your term may have expired. You're still here as a member. After the new appointments are made, the question is what happens to you. I see no reason why you may not participate as people who have special expertise or experience if you're interested in participating. You can participate on the committee as a civilian citizen volunteer. And the question I'd like to raise for consideration is whether we want to pass some kind of a rule. I'll make a motion. What I'm going to do is move that we grant a vote to those citizen volunteers at the discretion of the chair or by vote of the membership. In other words, we're going to give these citizen volunteers who are doing the work of the committee an opportunity to vote on projects that they're participating in, at least while they're doing this citizen work, even though they may not have been appointed by the city council.
Okay.
So that's the idea.
Okay.
I guess I have a question before we do anything more about that, and maybe we need a second or something, but, I mean, if this is the resolution that was passed by council, that now you're suggesting that we change?
No, I'm suggesting that we do what the council has given us permission to do, which is, item 6, members of the ad hoc project committee shall elect their own officers annually and may set their own rules for the efficient operation of committee activities. So I think if we want to, we can say that people who are doing the work of the committee should be given a vote on what we're doing. And I think it's I offer it at the discretion of the chair or by vote of the membership. If somebody wants to move it, somebody be given the vote, or the chair decides that somebody should have a vote, then I think that person should have a vote. I don't have any problem.
Skip, is it your intent that if a citizen becomes actively involved in this committee going forward, that they'll have the opportunity to vote on all things, all motions, all minutes, just kind of like a sitting committee member does?
I think that's up to the committee to decide. I think we have the option of doing it. I don't think it hurts anything because we never make a final decision. All of our decisions go to the council for vetting and final approval. So we don't make any final decisions.
So you would be comfortable with this, and if the citizen is allowed to participate, that it's full participation?
Well, as I propose it, it's up to you as chair or whoever our chair is at the time,
Right.
or by vote of the membership on the committee.
I'm trying to get the value of this.
What I'm trying to do is that if we have somebody who's going to do work on a committee and participate and work on a project with that person, we ought to give that person a consideration of having a participation, full participation in committee activities. I don't see a problem with it. I think we have that discretion until somebody says we don't.
Well, I think your motivation, based on what I'm seeing, is we need as much participation as we can get.
We've had real problems getting the public to come in. We have a huge group today considering this compared to in the past.
We have a 100% increase today over last time.
Yeah, but.
No, we had
don't
2
know.
last
Two
time.
Oh, two, oh,
We
3,
had 2 people.
3.
Oh, I apologize, okay.
So we had a 66% decrease in attendance this meeting versus last.
You didn't know that.
my math is right.
Anyway, you get the idea. We don't have a lot of participation from the public as it is.
Right.
We got people that are willing to come in and do work on the committee. I'm suggesting that maybe we ought to give them, full participation privileges.
Okay.
It's up to the committee whether they want to sign on that or not, but
I'd like to, if we can discuss this, I think it's a very reasonable thought process. George, you have to share your thoughts on this.
Well, because we were appointed by the council to represent them, I don't really think it's a good idea. However, I agree with Skip that they should have a vote on maybe a bigger project that they're working on. But as far as minutes and other things, or everything, I think it's going beyond what the council intends for any commission or board.
Okay, thank you, George. Anything else? Okay, Bonnie.
I think I agree with George. I mean, I think I have some problem with, if the council appoints the members, then the expectation is that those members are the only voting members. And they're the ones that are the decision makers of the committee, not just anybody that says, oh, let me show up and participate. I also think sort of your definition of participate, is it that they're fully engaged and, they're coming to every meeting, they're involved in maybe putting a grant proposal together or doing paperwork or whatever, as opposed to, not to say, showing up one time and then you don't see them again. I mean, if the expectation is that the committee members have to be there for 3 times in order to stay on the committee, then there has to be some expectation of the citizen volunteers. You can't just show up one day, vote, and then never show up again at another time. So I think there are some issues that we would need to consider. I also agree with George's assessment that if there is a specific project that, and let's say I'm not on the committee anymore, that I am really passionate about and want to be involved in and am willing to do the heavy lifting on something, then yes, I should be able to, maybe vote is not the right word, but at least have some weight in the decision of the committee, that there is some consideration. So if somebody's really passionate about a project and is willing to do a lot of the background information, then they should be able to have some say in whether it goes forward or not. I don't know how to specifically, and to say, it's up to the committee chair and the membership. I think that's just a little bit too vague for me,
okay, let
and
me
the
revise my
participant
motion.
is too
Which
vague.
wasn't seconded, by the way.
Good discussion anyways.
Yeah, how about we give the citizen volunteers the option to participate in discussion and deliberations without the vote?
I agree with that.
Which I think, if these are the people that are doing the work on projects, I think they ought to have some input somehow or another. We need to get their participation.
Can you say that again? Give citizens volunteers option to participate in discussions.
The motion is that we authorize citizen volunteers who are actively working on projects to participate in committee discussions and deliberations without a vote.
I'll second that.
Okay, George seconds.
Okay. And I guess, I think George brought up a very viable thought process here when he was about the having full voting across the entire spectrum here of what we do. And so my thing I was struggling with is what is the value of a vote on one project? And what does that do for anybody, I guess? And so I think what we're doing here is towards maybe a better item here that helps provide some sort of encouragement. What does this agenda item, in my mind, what does this agenda item do to help encourage citizen volunteers, based on what we're saying here?
Well, I don't know if it does anything particular unless somebody's interested in participating in a discussion, like you might be, for example, if you took up some sort of a project and wanted to work on it, then you would be able to participate in our discussions, contribute to the deliberations, and then the committee would take the vote. But it would give you a larger voice in what the proceedings are, but no vote.
Okay. All right, then that's being clear, thank you for that.
Hmm?
I just want some clarity on that, so.
Did that clarify?
It did for me, does everybody have the same understanding here on that?
Yeah, I've said it a number of times at council meetings, well, it'd be helpful for people to come to different meetings, and I don't know if it'll motivate them, but at least they'll be aware that there is a meeting. But the calendar shows that there's a meeting. This week, it shows that San Antonio is voting next door, but it didn't show this meeting.
Yeah, I noticed that, thanks.
Our calendar did?
Yes, did not mention our meeting.
Okay.
Shame.
It wasn't on the calendar, but.
What's that?
Who's doing the calendar right now?
This meeting is on the calendar today.
Okay.
Well,
If you get on our website and click today's date, it's on there. It should have been.
Maybe I'm not looking at it properly, but, I took a picture of it, and it clearly is not there.
Well,
And I hit-
I can tell you, Mr. Booth, that Kit was coordinating that calendar. I'm gonna have to put it to someone else. We tried to populate it as much as we can over the last few months to try to encapsulate all these meetings.
So.
Being short-staffed, we are trying to manage as best we can.
Okay, so, and Kit's no longer with us, right?
No.
So there's some understanding, unfortunately, in that case.
Well, I hit view all, and it didn't show up. I'm happy to come help if you need some help.
Okay.
I have nothing but lots of time.
Yeah, she originally, when we changed this, when we set this meeting up, she originally established this meeting to hold the council chambers, and it should self-populate on that calendar. Myself and Mr. McCormick get the emails to reserve this meeting. And so, and again, it should self-populate on the calendar itself. So why it's not showing up on here versus other meetings like the council meeting on Tuesday night, I'd have to look into that. It's a little more technical. If you want to be able to assist, I appreciate it, but it's a little more technical than my,
Okay.
but that was the goal, was once a reservation was made here or in the community room, that it self-populates on this calendar.
And that should have been automatic, is that correct?
That's the intent,
So it could be a programming issue
yeah.
also too.
But if you look on the calendar, I mean, we have obviously meetings in the community room Monday, the council meeting, and then another one on the 19th in the community room. That's because the reservation was made and then it's supposed to populate onto the calendar. So,
Okay, all right, so potentially a glitch in the system.
so now, in this case, I'll have to talk to Jeanette, because then she's gonna have to start monitoring those once reservations come in now at this point, or Melissa, our new city secretary.
I can follow up on that, that would be helpful. I appreciate that. Okay, so we got our difficulties, we'll go through them. Back to the agenda item of allowing, giving some support for citizens who want to participate, which is what we're trying to do here. Is there any other thoughts on that? I mean, I think the agenda item, skip motion, George seconded on it. Bonnie, do you have any more thoughts on this? I think it's an appropriate item to help encourage, that's all we're going to do is encourage citizens to be involved. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think I'm good with the amendment.
Okay.
I think anything that would encourage me, whether they stay involved or even just come and give us an idea that the committee can take, I think is a good idea. Obviously, the more people can be involved and are passionate about something, and again, I say, if somebody's passionate about a park, then their ability to participate in discussions of locations or wherever in the deliberations of the committee, I think is worthwhile.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, we've had some discussion. All in favor of Skip's motion? Okay, all right, passes unanimously. Skip, thank you for putting that forward and revising it. You have the language, so you're comfortable for the minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me say it again.
No, I'm fine with that.
I think we got it on tape.
Okay, so agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on zoning proposals previously discussed regarding conditional use status for proposed church use and multi-use property designations in certain areas. It's listed in the 26 TMU report, pages 97 through 111. Skip?
I pulled out a copy of this. If you'd like to have a copy of that section out of the examiner report, everybody else should have it electronically. There's a pretty substantial section, about 15, 20 pages or so, that covers land use, and both of these items are mentioned here. But since we have the committee in process of turning over, we're going to have new people on next time, or maybe additional people, no telling. And so it may be best to postpone this until that point. Does anybody want to have something about this they want to ask questions about or talk about?
Skip, on that particular section of the report, are you referring to or the entire report? Are you referring to the entire report or just that particular section?
Just this section, 97 through 111 of the
Okay.
report.
Okay. I don't have any questions on it. George, you have any?
Any chance you could put it in a PDF form instead of Word?
The report?
Yeah.
I think
It is in PDF.
Is that a PDF? Well, one of the things you said was in Word, and I have Word on the phone, and I use my phone almost exclusively.
I think I've got it on PDF, and I think I sent it PDF, but I'll send it.
Yeah, the version I have is PDF.
Yeah, the report didn't come in PDF.
Yeah, something was in Word, and I had to get my girlfriend to open it.
Okay.
At an office.
Okay, all right. So, but anything in regards to, so you haven't had a chance to see it, I guess?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Bonnie?
Yeah, my concern, I mean, I looked at this, and other than there being, 22% of our land is tax exempt, but some of the parcels they talk about, I mean, the report is old.
Yeah.
And so the open parcels are not open anymore. And a bunch of the places that they say, oh, this would be good for commercial is now commercial. So I'm not sure that, I mean, I don't know that I saw, I think before we would do anything with this report and anything with the recommendations of this report, the information needs to be updated.
Well, it does need to be updated, but let me clarify what I proposed in my suggestion raised at the last meeting was that we, first of all, make church use a conditional use in residential areas. The circumstance now is that church use is permitted in residential areas. And I think we need to change that to condition. We had, Bonnie's already pointed out, we have about 23%, I think now, of our property, real estate, all of our real estate is tax exempt. And that, as you may suspect, can be a problem because we have millions of dollars in property that we don't get any taxes from, but we still are required to provide the services. The conditional classification would still allow churches, but it might provide us an opportunity to regulate to some extent how many churches or whether we impose a usage fee for use of waste management, police, so forth and so on. And I think that's possible. There are a number of things that we would need to look at. I haven't looked at all of them. I'm just suggesting that this is something that we should look at. And I think that when we get the new members on the committee, that it would be the appropriate time to raise it again. Now, as far as the other zoning, multi-use zoning, we have now, each of our zones is specific to one kind of use, commercial, residential, so forth and so on. We'd have no multi-use designation. If you're interested and you want to go look, there is over in Balcones Heights, right across the street from City Hall, a new building, which is multi-use. It is commercial on the ground floor and apartments above. And that would be an ideal use, a multi-use characterization for property that might be located, say, along 410 or perhaps out on Northwest Military at the north end where there is some empty land that could be zoned multi-use. And by going up, it would increase the value of the property substantially, all of which would go to our tax base, and because we get additional residents, increase our population. And that might have a sanitary effect on our revenue as well. So that's the whole point to it. I think there are things to be, I think it's something we need to consider and think about whether we want to make a recommendation to the zoning board to make some kind of revision for the zoning review board whenever that comes up next time, whether they make a change to our zoning rules. It's not something we're going to have any great leverage on. It's a recommendation we could make to one of the other committees or to the council. And the idea is that it would improve our tax base. But it may be appropriate to postpone this for consideration next time, if that addresses the questions that you had.
My other question is, at one point in time, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, timeframe I'm blanking on, there was a master planning committee because our master plan hadn't been updated in a while. And there was a master planning committee. The idea was that they were going to go through the entire city and sort of look at the zoning, look at making changes, doing all that. I know that committee met for a while, and then all of a sudden, I believe that it was disbanded. And, you know, given the zoning board is reluctant, you know, it came up at this last zoning meeting this last week about spot zoning, and without an updated master plan and all that kind of stuff, that, you know, instead of doing a coordinated effort on behalf of the city, it's now whatever the vote is today by whatever members are on the zoning commission today. And I want to know what happened. I think the master planning committee was disbanded. I don't know that anything ever came out of that. And why are we once again looking at spot zoning instead of a better an updated master plan that actually reflects the city as it sits today? I don't understand this being part of our purview unless we're going to now be the committee that does the master planning.
Not at all. And I think it is part of our purview under the revised mandate, which authorizes us to look at economic development. Because putting in commercial and mixed-use property would, I think, contribute to economic development. If you guys are not interested in pursuing it, or if we postpone it and the committee, as it's reconstituted after the new appointments, doesn't want to look at it, then we won't look at it. It's that simple. I don't think it's spot zoning because I've had the opportunity to litigate some questions on that. So, but I think what we could do is to make certain land available for multi-use categories.
But I still think we're missing the bigger point here. The point is we need a master plan for the city.
I heard that. I'm going to get to it. The master planning committee met up through last summer sometime. They produced a plan called the strategic plan. They had a meeting last year in February, which I attended on the weekend, where they had a facilitator come in and help them develop some planning concepts. I spent a lot of time looking at the strategic plan, and I think it had some use. The problem is that from that strategic plan was supposed to come a master plan, and from that was supposed to come 2 or 3 other layers of plans. So I understand that the master plan needs to be revised. The committee was not disbanded. It just quit meeting. And why it quit meeting, I can't address. I don't know why it quit meeting. But I've talked to some of the members who tell me that for some reason it stopped meeting months ago and hasn't met since and hasn't pursued finalizing a master plan. One of the problems of all of the plans is that we're overrun by plans. And we spend a whole bunch of time generating plans like the strategic plan, which, no offense, won't really get us very far. One of the problems that I saw with some of the planning that's been done is that goals were established which didn't meet any of the standards of management goals. That's to say, they weren't specific, they weren't measurable, a whole bunch of problems. They were generic, nice ideas, but they didn't have any substance to them that you could point to and see how we're going to get there from here.
What committee set those goals?
As far as I know, it was the master plan.
Okay.
And it's called a strategic plan, it's not a master plan. And I have a little bit of difficulty myself telling what the difference is. But yeah, I think we do need a master plan, but I spent a lot of time doing planning for the military. That was one of my jobs. I spent 6 years at Randolph doing planning for training command and the Air Force training program. And we're not really very far down the road to effective planning.
Fair enough. Yeah, let me go ahead and bring this back in just a bit, because this was kind of specific about zoning and the church, and kind of open it up just a bit. I'm going to state, though, that I think Bonnie has a very valid point in that the master planning committee, this would be an item that would be best suited for that level of committee, because it is a very high level type planning, and indeed it ever happens again. One of the things we could do is instead of maybe taking a sideline, and I think you're right, too, Skip, I think we need to move this to the next meeting, but is to make a recommendation to council that they get back going again on getting the master plan moving forward, because I think council is deficient in helping with that process along, is my opinion. Without trying to be political about it, but I think it needs to be getting on. And if indeed they decide not to move forward, then this would be the next logical committee to start taking these things on, I think, in my opinion. So, okay.
John, the strategic plan that was approved back in November was based on, like the councilman said, a workshop for the council at the time to set goals, priorities, and so they'd like to see, that's kind of the basis of that. The master plan itself is something I understand. When I came in, I met with Councilman Gregory a few times on it to review it, and incorporated some of the ideas of the committee itself. And what I had mentioned to him and recommended is that we have one of our engineers like LNB who have expertise in planning look at it and vet it out, and incorporate any ideas, and then reconvene that master planning committee to see what LNB came up with or incorporated in based on what the committee had already been working on, and then flush that out, and then eventually get it back in front of council for approval.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think Mr. Gregory was chair of that committee.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned I met with them a few times, and we had gone over that document that was discussed during those committees, but that was kind of my recommendation, again, to have someone who had expertise in planning and land use, like our engineers from LNB do, to incorporate any ideas or flesh out any of the concepts discussed by the committee and bring it back to the committee for final approval before it goes to council. So part of it is actually just putting together a sort of time frame of how it would go from the review of our engineers to back to the committee, back to council. And that's based on, again, the 97, and as Mr. Booth, I was gonna say that the document, I think you had asked me to, on the website, to house all of our documents. And so under the City of Castle Hills planning document, I have streets, drainage, and planning. And so the 97 plan is there, the 2006 TAMU, and that strategic plan is all housed under there, so it can be accessed on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Under the blue tabs, it says garbage, elections, annual budget. It's the last blue tab, City of Castle Hills planning documents.
All right,
Thank you, Brian, thank you.
Sorry, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, I had one other suggestion. I mean, to me, if the master planning committee, I think that needs to be reinvigorated. If there are things that we can suggest that we could do the research on, we could do the kind of come up with a plan that can be presented to that committee, I would totally agree with that. I think that committee has enough on its plate that to have some help from a different group would, if it were me, I would welcome that kind of help if I were on that committee. So I don't want to say let's not do it, but I think that master planning group has to be reestablished, and all the kind of the zoning, it's got to go back to the zoning and all that. So I think there's a lot of pieces in there that need to be almost set up first, and then we offer, or this committee offers its help in preparing these sorts of things.
So do some of the heavy lifting on some of the sub-items.
Right. I think, the committee is made up of 6 or 8 people, whatever it is. It's just a lot, there's a lot going on in the city for that group to have to deal with. And if we can help in different pieces, and if this is one piece this committee is specifically interested in because it's economic development, that we can then take back to a master planning committee and say, here for your consideration, we've looked at this, we've done this background work and all that. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, fine.
So, are we proposing then to postpone this to the next committee meeting?
I think this particular agenda needs to be postponed, but I also would ask, and this committee would need to agree that Skip tried to put a fire in her belly about getting the master planning committee going, and
Oh, yeah.
if there's an appropriate way to do that.
Sure, I can understand that, Bonnie. Not everybody that I try to help wants to go across the street. Some of those old ladies didn't want to go, and I took them across anyway.
Oh, I know.
Is my suggestion irrelevant at this point?
Well, I think you made a good point about multi-use property. But I don't want us to be stepping on zoning toes either.
No, the point would be that if we make such a recommendation, it would go to zoning. We don't make those decisions.
Right.
We just make recommendations. And whoever we give them to can do whatever they please with them. And so if we suggest, hey, why don't you look at this? They can look at it or not. And once we've made the suggestion, that kind of ends our obligation. I mean, unless we want to go and advocate for it, which we certainly could do. If we came up with something we thought was worthy of advocation.
Sure.
Okay,
I was going to say, John, I was looking here at the 97 plan, and again, when you look at the contents being sort of the introduction and physical characteristics and land use, neighborhood.
That's on the strategic plan, correct?
No, this is on the 97 master plan. So I'm just telling you what the contents are, being land use, neighborhood profiles, city services, community projects, which, this is 20 years ago. So I think, again, there might be elements within these sections that this committee could work on to help that committee, or make recommendations to help incorporate an updated plan. Just by looking at this, especially the land use piece. And that's essentially why I want, our engineers from LMV who have sort of that background in reviewing land use, because that would be critical to having someone in that expertise in city planning look at the land use portion of the master plan to update it. That's kind of my reasoning for it.
That's reasonable, right? Hopefully they have that discussion.
I'm not a city planner, but,
No, I hope that they do reconstitute that committee. I know there's a lot of work put in. Hopefully hopefully Skip can be a voice to help move that forward again. And then we can come back and do our part on the various projects.
Okay.
I nominate-
I'm gonna move that we
I nominate Mr. McCormick.
pass this,
You can
move we
nominate.
pass this item to the next meeting.
Okay. All right, that sounds reasonable.
Did I get a second?
Is that the same as tabling?
Vote on that.
Say it,
Is that the same as tabling?
that sounds good, yes. We're tabling it, I'll second the table, move to the next meeting. All in favor of tabling it? Okay, great, thank you. As long as you tell council to get the master plan. Okay, agenda item number 7. Update by City Manager Ryan Rapley on the development, possible interlocal agreement or MOU with San Antonio, discussion and possible action on preparation for future joint projects with San Antonio. Brian?
Yes, John, as I mentioned last time, I had discussion, obviously, I've had discussion with the TCI staff and the councilman in District 1's office, and so I've had further communication with his office, and so his office is going to facilitate that meeting at some point. We're just trying to pinpoint a date and time, and as soon as I get that date and time, I can let y'all know, or the councilman know, or if you want to attend, John, at some
And
point.
This is Councilman Trevino?
Yes.
Okay.
So ideally, he'll facilitate it. Again, as I mentioned previously, that's the process institutionally or internally San Antonio does on these projects. So we need to work through their committees and then eventually council for the framework of this. But starting with his office to facilitate the meetings with staff over there and getting the groundwork of this agreements, run it through the committee on their side would be the steps taking for this process, so.
So Brian, let me ask you this. What you're trying to put together, I mean, you know, an MOU is a relatively innocuous document. But what we're trying to do here is more specific to.
Well, I'm not saying it necessarily would be an MOU, we're talking probably, again, interlocal that,
Well, that's what I'm saying, I was getting.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, you're trying to get to the more of a specific type agreement, which would be interlocal, and Councilman Trevino really needs to help drive that
Yeah.
for West Avenue, correct?
essentially,
No, city councilman.
Eric,
City council.
City Council.
Oh, okay, San Antonio.
so again, as I mentioned, you know, that's, when they had the call for projects for CMAC, each council member in San Antonio had different projects.
They're key to move forward, basically.
And then it went to the transportation committee over there, and then they prioritized it and tried to make it equitable among the 10 council districts to submit for the CMAC.
What I was gonna ask though, and George is on the right track here too, is our Trevino, what help could he provide in moving that process forward? Or is it even needed at this point?
Probably pretty vital, and at some point I can talk to our mayor
Okay.
and see if he's willing to attend, and I think he knows him already as well.
Right, okay.
And again, you know, the interlocal would spell out those responsibilities of who's doing what and the funding portions.
I think as a committee, as a project committee, we would love to.
But you're correct, I'll talk to our mayor. I've already had mentioned this project to him. Again, like I said, I had a few minutes with the councilman in District 1 and kind of in a nutshell gave him the project, and he was on board. And obviously since then, I've started the discussion with his chief of staff.
Okay, all right. Brian, anything else?
No, sir?
Okay, great, thank you. Do you think by chance some of this, the meeting could be put together by whoever meets next time, our next meeting?
I don't see why not. I mean, we were just trying to talk about how time and date getting this set, but if it was in the next 30 days, I'd hope to have it done. I mean, based on my conversation.
Good.
And I'll incorporate the mayor too.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, agenda item number 8, new ideas from the public. We have the public here today. I'd love to continue and see what he's like to bring forward to us to listen to. Yeah, come on over here. We're streaming, and so can't quite hear you back there.
Steve Cracker, here to Amplified. specifically came, to talk about one thing that I thought, I actually mentioned to John, at the last city council meeting, that just came to mind, but since this discussion, I've got two more that kind of came to mind, so I'm gonna throw them all three out here, if that's okay?
That's absolutely fine, yes.
When you back up on it.
Okay, sorry.
Picking up.
What was your address?
302 Antler Drive. Where there's a light construction going on there.
Yeah, good introduction.
Yes, thank you very much.
Did you get my letter?
I think so.
Okay, just checking.
I get way too much email and letters and all stuff. Anyway, don't want to mess up the page too much with all this side discussion. I specifically came because, I saw the PR board or whatever about the coverage for the cars out here in the parking lot out here. And before I moved here to San Antonio, I lived out in southern Arizona. And one of the big things they always did there for coverage is for the playground areas, this type of thing, they had, the sail,
Canopy.
canopy, whatever, yeah, those types of things to help with the shade for the playground areas. So the same type of thing there. But what a lot of them were doing for the parking areas is they were putting in the posts along the side with a metal shade area and the solar panels on top of the metal. So they were making shade, but they were also generating power with the solar panels. Now I'm just going to bring that forward, and that if you think about doing more coverings, or if these wear out and in a few years and need to be replaced, and you think about doing something like that with the solar panels, and you get the shade for the cars, and you also get the energy inside. So that was just the idea that came forward, and so I thought I'd bring it to the project committee to think about. And if I'll go on to the two other things, just kind of pop my head when you all were discussing things up here. You were talking about the trying to partner with San Antonio for the tournament. And I don't know whether their hesitation was partly because it was inequitable, the game, is that they were just going to get one part of it, but when there were two parts there or whatnot else. The one thing that would be probably equal in benefit, maybe even more benefit San Antonio a little bit more. And we talked about a little bit more walkability, bike riding around in our area. One thing I had mentioned to a couple of people is Jackson Keller from west, clear down to McCullough, is a mismatch of 2 lanes to 1 lane, 2 lanes to 1 lane.
Big one line.
And it seems to me like it would be a prime candidate for like separated bicycle lanes that connect this area of the city and all the apartment buildings up here with the Olmos Park Basin. And so, in your discussions with San Antonio, I think it could be an enhancement to the city if bike lanes that are Jackson Keller, take it all down to 1 lane the whole way, and then put in the extra bike lanes down there, and a safe bike lane to get down there and be able to do stuff like that. And I guess the only other thing that kind of popped in my head when you all were talking about.
See, one question, so you're thinking bike lanes from West Avenue all the way to McCullough? That's the ideal?
That'd probably be ideal, yeah, because it's down at the Olmos Park Basin where there's a lot of rec and.
Yeah, the park
and
is
parks and
there.
recreation and stuff down there.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify things.
I
Okay,
don't want to go out all the way to the end of Jackson Keller because there's apartments out there.
yeah, I mean, clear up the Banks Jackson too, yeah, if you want to. Leave that to the project committee details, whatever. But you were also asking about greater participation in this committee. One idea that I would see, and I know when she was councilwoman, I think Amy Lynn one time put in one just on next door. What ideas do you have? But if there could be a site for idea submission, that, you know, you can get links to, Nextdoor, once in a while, these types of things. If there's something to capture ideas, with names on there that can generate brainstorm ideas, and then when they would come before this committee meeting, reach out to the people that submitted the ideas, posted on Nextdoor, to, you know, this idea that was posted on this site is going to be discussed here, come out, talk about it, you know, present your ideas. It might be a way to help facilitate and generate public interest in this community.
Yeah, and I've seen those in other cities, and they do have some type of, a link where you can provide input to city and/or council, and any ideas in the community project, so it's probably a matter of just incorporating in our website.
Yeah.
And then getting the word out.
Incorporate there, get the word out, but then also beyond that, figure out when the specific idea might be discussed in more detail. And then, you know, post it at this date, we're going to talk about it so that people can know to come out.
All right, good. Steve, thank you. So one of the things that Steve made me think of, I'm going to bring this up, is signing up for the notifications off of our website. And this would be a perfect one to have notifications go out to people. I don't know how well that's working as of yet, if the system is running or not. But Ryan, can you comment on that, if people are signing up for it, or?
I'd have to look into I guess the traffic count to see who's signed up since then.
Okay.
But it's available to sign up so you can get notifications. So again, as soon as something populates like on the calendar, they'll get a notification, or if we send out some type of message, they'll get the notification. But again, you have to be signed up. That's why we tried to push it out to say, you know, kind of get registered, sign up so you can get this information.
Right. Okay, right, thank you. So, Steve,
Go ahead. Sorry.
thank you for coming and sharing.
John?
Okay.
The website notifications has worked on sign up for it. I've been signed up for quite a while.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rich. I just was looking at it today, so I'm curious about it.
I guess, yeah, I think Ryan, that there's still somebody at the city that still posts on Nextdoor, right? Especially like if they're, because I've seen, you know, Antler, that the construction's starting, here are the dates, or, you know, there's a leak here, Saw's going to be out working in the area. But what I was going to suggest was, if you still do have somebody doing that, I think it would be a good idea to post on Nextdoor that we're working on revising the website. There's a lot of things that have been posted, including a notification that you can sign up to get notified of meetings, blah, 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 blah. I think that would be a good idea. It's a quick post that can go on to Nextdoor for anybody that goes, hey, I didn't know this was happening. You know, the last time I went to the website, I couldn't find anything. Oh, now look at what's all here, what's all been, you know, put on. Oh, look, I can sign up. I think just a notification like that out to people might get, again, drive more business, if you will, to the city's website. But also, you know, the fact that the strategic plans are there, the fact that you've got all those reports that are there that are for people that are interested in what's going on in the city, that they now know that there's a posting, which if they went looking for it once before and never found it, they went, oh, it's not there, and they never went back. But to provide just a notification that stuff is there. And if you give me a list, I'd be more than willing to post it. But,
No, and again, for a long period of time when Janet was here, that's kind of what she did, was get it out on Nextdoor and Facebook, those kind of things. Jeanette's kind of taken that over in the last few months, so we've tried to get as much as we can. I think I mentioned before that we are working on an website upgrade, and they've sent us sort of the deliverables to meet, but it's got to be done in certain phases, and it's a staff participation, so we need some of the department heads, everybody, to kind of figure out how this new concept's going to look and then launch it. So it's basically, I think, a 3 to 6 month window, and I hate to say that it was something that Janet was kind of working on when I kind of delegated to her on these deliverables. And so we've slowly tried to keep up so we can eventually get this upgrade. Right now, it's, our website's a little antiquated and compared to other cities that have much more options to let people know about events and projects and a much better calendar notification process.
Yeah,
So,
I think.
and navigation too. I mean,
Yeah, and I think the bigger upgrade is fine, but you have added a lot of things to
Yeah.
the website lately that I think if somebody had gone in previously, even 6 months ago, and started searching for something and couldn't, and went, ugh, our website
Yeah.
sucks, and walked away, you've done a lot of work, including the meetings and
Well,
the
just,
documents.
I got it
and
open
stuff.
right now, and so the news flash, we try to populate as much as possible.
Right, all I'm saying
Yeah.
is, just have somebody put a notice that says, hey, look, we've made some improvements, and we're still working, I mean, say we're still working, but here are some of the new things that you can see now in our website, go check it out. And maybe you would get more people sign up for notifications, and more people might get involved in that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not saying, I know there's the bigger effort, and it's obviously needed, and you can let everybody know, this is phase one of a multi-phase project to really upgrade our website, but I think just to let people know that that you have posted a bunch of documents, there are things there, there is the news flash, they can click on that first page and see the CIP, all those things, I think it's just more of a notification of, hey, go check it out.
So my recommendation is to promote the notifications option.
The website in total and the notifications out.
Keep mine. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward then. And you get to see, thank you for attending and sharing your ideas. I want to go ahead and open up members' opportunity to make announcements. Everybody's first talking, any announcements?
No.
George, any announcements at this point? No. Okay. Skip, any announcements you'd like to make?
The branch management course is next Wednesday and Thursday, if anybody wants to go. I think the city may have funds to be able to pay the tuition. It's a 2-day course. I think it's $600 or thereabouts for
$595.
attendance. I plan to go. I think it'd be nice if we had one more than just me go. But it's up to whoever wants to go to say so.
This is next week.
That's next week, Wednesday and Thursday. Starts at 9, it's at 8 o'clock, I think, and it's a follow-up to the one-day grant writing course. I guess it was 2-day grant writing course. Because the deal is, once you get a grant, the management is fairly complicated too.
All right. Skip, thank you. Actually, it's a kind of almost an action. Does anybody here have a desire or have time to be able to do that at this point? Okay.
I thought I saw that Amy McGlynn had said that she was interested in going.
I'm sorry, tell me again.
Amy, I thought I saw, it might have been, did you post something on Nextdoor about it? And I thought Amy had said that she was interested in going because she went to the 1 day and she was interested in going to the follow-up
Yeah, she did.
course.
I talked to her and I talked to Mr. Rackley about it. Unfortunately, she's no longer on city council. She's not a member of this committee. So it's kind of hard to say that the city's going to pay the cost for any citizen who wants to go. If we had committee members that wanted to go, the city may be able to pay the cost of that person's tuition. My policy is that I always pay for my own because I don't want to owe anything to the city if they feel like they didn't get their money's worth.
So that kind of puts Amy in a kind of limbo. Didn't Jack mention he was trying to go too or not?
I don't know. I've sent the information to Jack a couple of times. He's out of town. It's like,
Jack went to the last one. Yeah.
I know I mentioned that he was interested in going to the next one, so.
I hadn't heard from him. I'll just reach out to him.
He should be back on Monday, and there may still be an opportunity to get him in. I'll follow up with him.
Great, thank you, Skip. Okay, guess it's, do I have any announcements? Probably without trying to be political, I just wanted to say that no matter what happens coming up at this next council meeting, I think it's gonna potentially, there's gonna be some changes in the committee, and that always happens. But I just wanted to say, no matter what happens, I've enjoyed being part of this committee. I've enjoyed working with Skip, and hopefully it continues, and the committee members, but we'll see what happens with the council and how things move forward for us as a committee. I think we're the one positive, one of the positives of the community, and trying to work together, no matter how our viewpoints are, for the benefit of the community. So I've always appreciated that. It's been I've enjoyed my time here. I just wanted to state that, everybody knows that. That's all I have. Next agenda item will be announce the date and time of the next meeting. I'll ask this with one little caveat, and that being that the committee may change. I'd like to go at set time if our county representative agrees it'd be appropriate. Skip?
I'm just looking, I think the next council meeting is this coming Tuesday. So we're probably looking at early July sometime. Of course, 4th of July is on a Thursday, I think.
Correct.
And so Saturday the 6th would be right before our next council meeting, if we wanted to do that. If people are not traveling on that weekend.
Yeah, I would suggest we not try to do it on the 6th. There's too many people that would rather have fun on 4th of July weekend
And maybe traveling.
and maybe traveling, which is having fun.
Saturday the 13th of July.
I think the 13th or the 20th are appropriate dates. I will say, unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town during those 2 weeks. And so I won't be able to attend, so you have to take the lion's share, if that's okay.
Either one, you say?
I'll be on the both of them, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going on the 13th.
Sorry?
I'm going on the 13th.
Okay. How about we make a suggestion for the 20th of July at this point? Okay, so the suggestion will be our next committee meeting will be on July 20th, 2019 at 10 a.m. That's my, let me a second on that.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of that being the day? Okay, it is now 11:18 a.m. Motion to adjourn. Okay.